from Mexico, and I work in the United States. Okay, so let's... I'm an interdisciplinary artist examining reciprocal relationships and environmental justice in a multi-species world amid climate. I present today is available in my website. I have an art practice and a design practice. I will also show a selection of, I will also just share about my Counterforce lab and a selection of my art practice today. Many of us consider ourselves storytellers, perhaps even myth makers, and we all know that origin stories are powerful. As humans, we need to understand who we are and where we come from, and place ourselves in stories and in history. My story and interest in science, art, and social and environmental issues began in Mexico City, where I was born and raised by parents who were educated as chemical engineers. They taught me to view the world from a physico-chemical perspective, its elemental composition, organization, and systems. They pretty much taught me to see the world through its design. My family spent many summer vacations deep in the jungles of southern Mexico in pursuit of obscure Mayan archaeological sites, my father's passion. We would spend 1 or 2 months every year, most of the time camping deep in the jungle, experiencing its overwhelming presence and sounds. Here you can discern the face of Chak, the god of the rain of the Mayan. So whether it was animate or inanimate, camping amongst the dense jungle, I could sense the vitality of the presence of everything around me, the vibrancy of matter. Sometimes we were able to camp among the Mayan temples, including Uxmal shown here, surrounded by powerful iconography. I would make rubbings of the glyphs on paper with charcoal from our campsite, becoming fascinated by this ancient symbolic storytelling. All of these experiences helped to form me as a designer, artist, explorer, and environmentalist. Ascent of Weavers represents the complexity of the Latinx diaspora and the potential of our past and present experiences to enrich and sustain culture. The work is a collaboration with the Hernandez-Quero family, weavers of Zapotec descent from Mitla. Mitla, recognized as the city of the death in Zapotec culture, is framed to provide a narrative structure as I visually convey a journey of weavers into the underworld of the Mixtec mythology, undergoing many trials, eventually emerging as warrior goddesses who lead civilization to a just, more equitable, and sustainable relationship with our planet. Research into indigenous Zapotec weaving culture led me to the essay, Women Weavers, Warrior Goddesses, Textile Tradition in the Zapotec Religion of Southern Oaxaca. Tlazolteotl is one of these goddesses associated with cotton and weaving as depicted in the Codex Yoali Ejecatl. The final work is a 3-channel video installation, duration 31 minutes, commissioned by the Museum of Contemporary Art Oaxaca in 2018.
Okay.
The January 8 Memorial honors the victims and survivors of the 2011 mass shooting at then Representative Gabriel Gifford's Congress on Your Corner event in Tucson, Arizona. The violence perpetrated on that day was an assault on freedom of expression and self-governance. Symbols telling the story are cut into the collective wall of memories, forming constellations that speak of the people who died, survived, and responded on that day, and recall Tucson's history of resilience. I designed the 146 unique symbols inspired by the Hohokam petroglyphs, which were left thousands of years ago in the Sonoran Desert. The symbols embody the values and interests held dear by each of the 6 people who were killed and the 13 who survived. At night, they glow softly. Each of the 19 affected has a constellation of 33 holes representing the voids the bullets left. Cut into those holes, the slain people have 7 personal symbols and the survivors 5. The symbols were determined through interviews and with family members and survivors, and the many articles in local and national media devoted to the tragedy. As a memento, visitors can make a blind emboss or rubbing of the symbol, which brings me back to my childhood. So that was something that immediately I saw as a possibility for that. This image is showing Mary Reed making a rubbing of the Mama Bear symbol I designed to honor her courage in shielding her daughter Emma with her own body, receiving 3 bullets. It was important to contextualize this tragic event within the history of Tucson, which is illustrated through 32 symbols displayed on a circle of lanterns lighting the path around the memorial. The history symbols were informed by public meetings, community stakeholders, historians, and the Pascua Yaqui, Apache, and Tohono O'odham tribes. On the 10th anniversary of the shooting of the tragedy, the memorial was unveiled with Congresswoman Gabby Giffords and the Senator Mark Kelly in attendance. And 2 days later, PBS NewsHour made a thoughtful segment that they titled Tucson Memorial, part of a new tragic American news genre. And that is very sobering, just to know that that's a new wave, a new art genre in the United States. Walking the Earth is a long-term project I began in Iceland in 2013, which will be completed the day I cease to exist. It is an ever-growing multi-channel video installation consisting of a series of vertical screens, each displaying a video of the artist walking the Earth at the horizon line. So if the last project is like really heavy to do, a lot of the times I counter with them with something that is much more poetic. The body of work explores walking as research and art practice, serving as a meditation on how space becomes place when it's imbued with our presence. The vast and distant horizon becomes reachable and intimate in this work. In 2024, I was invited to create a permanent public artwork at the new terminal at the Portland International Airport. The architect described the vision of the new terminal as creating spaces drawn on the fresh feeling of walking through Oregon's many parks. And I jumped at the opportunity to add a new chapter to my long-term project. The human figure traverses the 9 ecoregions of the state, from the near shore to the Columbia Plateau. The walk begins at dawn and ends at dusk. The final work consists of 54 walks. Here it is on site. The work is displayed on 2 LED walls, each measuring 6 meters high by 43 meters long. The 2 LED walls face each other in this enormous terminal. There's about 100 meters between one and the other. The video plays in 3 cycles of 18 walks each. This is cycle 1. This is cycle 2, I think, and this is cycle 3. I don't have time to go into how we created the work, but hopefully these images will just give you a sense of what we had to do. It was with my life and studio partner, Adam Ewens. He was in charge of making sure the truck worked and making food and the production of the film I was filming. I was doing all of the digitech at night, and here we are. It was almost like a second honeymoon. It was really nice. After 30 years together. The discourse on climate change and the sixth mass extinction relies on the visual and narrative production of three extraterritorial or outer spaces to imagine our ecological futures: the atmosphere, the ocean, and the poles. Today I will share 3 projects on these outer spaces to help create an ecological imaginary that shapes our understanding and representation of the changing planet in the Anthropocene. Circumsolar is a growing body of artworks that emerges from my profound love for the Arctic tern, a small seabird that makes the longest migration of all creatures, flying solo from the Arctic to the Antarctic and back again, for a year total of about 80,000 kilometers. Circumsolar Migration 1 is a 26-minute video captured in 16mm in Iceland, Svalbard, and Finland that focuses on the Arctic tern's breeding season. Young terns eat a variety of fish whose own migratory paths are changing due to the warming oceans, and they are in decline because of overfishing. Recent research reveals that 90% of the chicks are dying due to starvation, and that this is true for most seabirds. They live 35 years, so we have not really seen the crash. With this long-term project, I actively seek to enter the awareness of the Arctic tern, to nurture an interspecies friendship with a wild animal. I must look to other species for guidance, to learn from the Arctic tern's determination to continue as a species, as we humans seem to have lost our will to survive as a species. Next phase of my long-term project, Circumsolar, is on interspecies communication. By combining digital bioacoustics with machine learning, next year I will begin capturing a multimedia array of taxa data on the Arctic tern for a 360-degree immersive multi-channel video and sound installation, as well as to build a living memorial as we navigate the unfolding sixth mass extinction. And this is the installation in Santa Monica Beach, California, in 2013. This work is a 2-channel video projection and is a contemplation of a day in Los Angeles from dawn to dusk. Any instant whatever portrays the daytime sky in its textures and physics of blueness, its range of water formations sculpted by wind and pressures born of our nearest star, forces which, when sympathetically processed, transform into emergent sensation of sublime beauty. The sky is shared by humans and non-human creatures who through migration connect Southern California with the rest of the Pacific Flyway, from the far north to the northernmost reaches of our planet. As we change how our skies look and sound, whether through artificial light and noise, structures or pollutants, they become menacing. The pollutants we release permeate our skies and affect our human and non-human kin, often disproportionately harming those who are already most vulnerable. The piece is about 90 minutes long, and it takes you through an entire day. As the darker colors begin to move towards the center, it kind of cycles in 90 minutes. The Cierandos was commissioned by the Laguna Art Museum for the 2022 Art and Nature Festival. The installation at the museum was a 360-degree immersive and cinematic experience, and portrays the adjacent Pacific Ocean as a fully animated body, as well as a place of deep interconnectedness where multi-species kinship fosters a sense of awe within us. I quickly will be sharing the images of the installation as I will be speaking over a video clip that I brought. So as you enter the space, you are surrounded. And Drew Schnur is a composer I've been working with for many, many years. He created the composition. As I need to speak over it, I won't be able, you guys won't be able to hear well the composition. My artwork takes the title from Rachel Carson's 1951 book, The Sea Around Us, in which the author writes, "Fish, amphibian, and reptile, warm-blooded bird and mammal, each of us carries in our veins a salty stream in which the elements sodium, potassium, and calcium are combining almost the same proportions as in seawater." Carson reminds us that we owe our very existence to the ocean. Many of you may know Carson's groundbreaking book, Silent Spring, from 1962, which revealed the disastrous impact of DDT and sparked the modern environmental movement. The Sea Around Us contends with past environmental abuse right off the Southern California coast. Through special reports, I learned that between 1940s and the 1960s, Montrose Chemical Corporation dumped barrels containing the pesticide DDT into the ocean near Santa Catalina Island, just 30 miles off the coast of Los Angeles, where I live. The equivalent of around 500,000 barrels of chemicals still lay there, oozing their toxic payload that we now must confront. These materials have bioaccumulated across the food web, affecting the lives of our human and more than human kin. Almost 20% of the sea lions in the California Bight have cancer, a much higher percentage than elsewhere. Their metabolism is very similar to that of humans, so the study of sea lions is very important for our own health. The Sea Around Us incorporates scientific video captured by robots at depths at around 3,000 feet. The 55-gallon barrel, which plays a leading role in my artwork, is the symbol of some of the most earth-devouring industries of the 20th century, from fossil fuels to forever chemicals and radioactive materials. To face unmitigated disasters such as the ravage from DDT, the author Donna Haraway, a feminist theorist who is committed to multi-species environmental justice, proposes that we stay with the trouble. That is, that we confront the repercussions of our troubled times and embrace our connections to our non-human kin. Only then we will reckon with the dominion and negligence while repositioning ourselves as similar threatened critters in the Anthropocene. It is from this position of equality and vulnerability that we open our imaginations to other ways of knowing and being on this planet. The Sea Around Us embraces indigeneity as a profound way to relate to the ever-changing waterscape of the ocean, and to inspire different modes of engagement with the natural world through which old and new imaginaries and cosmologies are brought to the foreground. That's not the sound of it. Anishinaabe writer Robin Wall Kimmerer points out that in the Western tradition, humans are at the pinnacle of evolution, while in native ways of knowing, human people are often referred to as the younger brothers of creation. Humans have the least experience with how to live and thus the most to learn, and must look to other species for guidance. For the Sea Around Us, I sought guidance from and entered into kinship with abalone, a shelled marine snail that reflects the time immemorial of the sea, bringing us to the depths of geologic time, some 70 million years ago, and informing the imagery and cosmology of cultures, both ancient and present. Abalone shells still play a prominent role in the traditional hupa ceremony of Northern California that marks girls coming of age, serving as a kind of looking glass that reflects the vision of their future. Having researched indigenous transformational objects, I envision the abalone shell as a portal guiding us away from a self-making world and towards a making with world, together and deeply interconnected. I work with 3 generations of Ahashiman indigenous women from the Laguna Beach area, filming them interacting with the abalone shell underwater and recording them as they sang together. When the stories we tell about the ocean are rooted primarily in utilitarian purposes, transportation, militarization, and extraction, we miss thinking of the ocean as alive, as full of spiritual, cultural, and ecological value. I hope my artwork provides an opening for viewers to enter into that way of thinking. The curator Marcus Raymond has written, "One mandate of the arts is to make the invisible visible and provide society with a mirror, allowing us to position ourselves in time, but also to question this time's circumstances and systems." There is a clip in my website. You can see more clips of, you can hear the sound and all of that. So I hope you go there and check it out. But this is a little bit of what we did. First, I went down with my camera, but I could not direct, film, and direct the actant. So I ended up hiring a cinematographer, Tyler Schiffman, and then she's my free diver, Nicole Gorman. And Adam was producer of the shoots. Here I am directing the Ahashiman elder Adelia Sandoval and her family. Here we are with the cinematographer Rahat Mahajan, filming sea lion patients at the Pacific Marine Mammal Center in Laguna Beach. And lastly, I will share about my lab. In a rapidly changing world, transdisciplinary research that engages the arts, humanities, and sciences has become indispensable in helping us and our communities navigate and understand the natural and social worlds, as well as our place within them. With that in mind, I founded the UCLA Counterforce Lab in 2015. My lab is a student-led research studio that harnesses the power of art and design to engage with the reality of the global and ecological crisis and its ties to environmental injustice. We are a collection of artists, designers, scientists, and thinkers working in transdisciplinary collaboration with community partners to engage in art making grounded in storytelling and place-based artistic fieldwork practices. At Counterforce Lab, we believe that art and design have a key role. They have a key role to play in tackling the complex challenges of the ecological crisis and environmental injustice due to the power art has to boldly imagine the world and the way we choose to interact with it. The lab's current project is the Biophilia Treehouse, a public arts initiative to grow a series of living sculptures housing native trees and plants that together constitute a complete ecosystem for site-specific bird indicative species whose presence or absence indicate the health of an environment. When built in sequence, a series of biophilia tree houses form an avian wildlife corridor that reconnects fractured habitats, especially in dense urban areas where environmental inequities abound. The Biophilia Treehouse functions as an outdoor laboratory for art and science education for third graders of underserved communities. And we built a prototype in Encino, California. consider the birds as my client. So the architecture is informed by bird behavior, needs, and wants. The story of the land and its people, including the more than human, is pyrographed onto the bamboo poles. Baptiste Morisot, in his book Ways of Being Alive, argues that the ecological crisis is existential for the many species that face extinction, but it also is a crisis of sensibility. The first symptom of this crisis is expressed in the notion of the extinction of the experience of nature. There is an impoverishment of what we can feel, perceive, and understand of living beings and the relationships we can weave with them. As a UCLA professor, I'm dedicated to transdisciplinary teaching and research, and I am deeply committed to building frameworks that support ecological arts and justice literacy. I see the creation of my Counterforce Lab as my legacy. And I'd like to conclude with what the curator Stephanie Hessler has written. While the arts may hardly save us, they could possibly generate momentary flashes of light that touch us, that wake us up, that show that there may be still other ways. And in the spirit of Die, Here and Now, I recall the words of your very own Vietnamese poet Ocean Vuong. On Earth, we are briefly gorgeous. Thank you.